You're listening to No Retreat, hosted by Cheryl Ann, produced by Scott Douglas. Today on No Retreat, our guest is Dan Mims, Republican primary candidate for U.S. Representative, Texas, District 9. Welcome to the program, Dan. Would you take a moment and give our audience an introduction?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate the invitation to come on your podcast. Briefly, I'm native Texas. I was born and raised in the currently configured district. Raised my family in the district. Still live in Channelview, Texas, is where my wife and I were raised. Had a business in the district, Mims Meat Company, for many years, and I've served the community through Rotary. I've got 27 years experience with one of the local Rotary clubs, 22 years experience, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Most people in the district are very familiar with. We bill it as the largest rodeo in the nation, certainly the one of the richest rodeos in the nation as far as payouts to contestants. And all that money goes back to the youth of Texas for education. So, and education is a big part of me. I've got 22 years experience serving as a board of trustee member of San Jacinto College. I'm currently chair of the board. I've served at the state level for community colleges in Texas, and I've also served at the national level for community colleges. So a lot of years, a lot of experience in education, higher education, and truly believe that that's the pathway for the future of our country is an educated workforce.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Some of those, your background experiences, how do you expect to take those and use them to shape your service for District 9?
Well, especially serving in Washington, it's a lot about managing different personalities and different, just working with people. And that's what I've done all my life. And we had 175 employees. And I still tell people my number one skill that I used the most was conflict resolution. And I think that could be fairly useful in Washington these days. Seems to be somewhat needed. And, you work through a lot of ups and downs in business. I was in business for 40 years. And I tell people I had days I felt like I was on top of the world. And I had days I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders, and you have to be able to handle all of those with an even temper and an even keel, because that's what the people who are working with you expect, and so you can't. You have to manage these pressure situations. I had a situation where I got a call at 9 o'clock at night from my warehouse nighttime manager, said the building was on fire, and I exit the freeway and there's flames shooting up in the air. And it's so you have to think pretty quick, well, what are you going to do? And of course the first priority was we made sure everybody was accounted for and safe. But as soon as the fire's out, we have to go to work. And me and a very good team of folks that worked with me, we worked 48 hours straight. We didn't miss a single delivery. We made every delivery the next day and the rest of the week. And but it was about developing a plan, executing the plan, modifying the plan as needed, as things don't always go as expected. And handling pressure is something I've done my entire business life. So used to working 60-hour work weeks. Washington is no problem. Working with volunteers with Rotary and with the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, when you work with volunteers, it's a different type of relationship than working with employees. And I was able to manage that very well. And again, that'll be a skill set I think will serve me well in Washington. And then, of course, public service. I've got 22 years of public service with the college and understand certainly that world and the budgeting that's involved. I had the budgeting in my business, but you learn that, community colleges and any government entity operate a little differently. And so you have to manage all that. And I think I've done it very successfully. San Jacinto College has always been a good college, but we realized several years ago that we could do better and started making a lot of changes. And San Jacinto College has gone from a good college to the number two rated college in the nation out of 1,100 community colleges. Pretty proud of that.
Wow, that is excellent.
So I
And that's no small feat. My dad taught for 30 years at our local community college, Volunteer State Community College in Gallatin, Tennessee. So
awesome.
I'm very familiar with the struggles and trials of the entire, it's a very rewarding thing being involved in community colleges because you get to impact a lot of lives, of people that are really working their way through, you
Yeah.
know.
We change a lot of people's lives
You
for the better.
do, for the better. Absolutely. Agreed. That's exciting. Um, so describe, let's say you earn the role, right? You're elected. Describe your agenda when you hit the streets in DC. What's top of mind of policy priority?
Well, I think the first thing we have to continue to work on is, we have a lot of executive orders that have been initiated these last couple of years, and if we don't get those codified into legislation, uh, they're at risk of going away with the next president. And I think it's very important that continue to work on getting that done. We need to continue to work to secure our border. We need to continue to work on affordability that uh, you know, our working families. I mean, it's a struggle still, and I appreciate and respect the fact we've brought the inflation rate down, but we have to continue because um, our retirees and our individuals who are working, it costs a lot of money to go to the grocery store these days, and I think we need to continue to work on that. I think healthcare is an issue we definitely need to work on. When I had Mims Meat Company, again, the 175 employees, I provided health insurance to all of those employees. And I understand the burdens that businesses face in doing so. I sold that business in 2010 and opened a new business, and that business only had 5 employees. Well, if you have a small business, 5, 10 employees, you can't buy group health insurance at any price, and we need to address that. There are ways where we can do association insurance to where there to make it affordable for our small businesses who want to provide insurance for their employees. Today, it's an impossible hurdle. I tried every way in the world, and it just there wasn't a way financially feasible to make it work. I think prescription drugs, we need to work on that. It's again the biggest part of my claims as an employer with health insurance. It wasn't catastrophic illness. It was prescription drugs. Prescription drugs is the biggest cost of Americans and insurance. So if we can bring that down, we can bring the cost of insurance down. We can bring prices down to the individuals and their copays. That just has to be a priority, is getting the cost of prescription drugs down.
Well, one problem that we have, that I think we have in America today, is that people don't realize that we get what we're funding. So we're funding prescriptions, okay? And so we get more prescriptions being prescribed. And because of that, there's a bigger supply. I mean, there's a bigger demand and a lower supply, and the price goes up and the price goes up. But no one's ever incentivized to get people off of medications.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a tough one. That is definitely a tough one, and
I don't know how we would do it,
unfortunately,
but
yeah, there's
yeah,
not an easy answer. I think
there's
it
not.
starts with us. It
Yeah.
does start a little bit with us as individuals. Ask questions. Why do you want to give me that? I don't. Doctors. They'll tell me, what this. I ask questions, and sometimes I disagree with them, and I go, yeah, I think I'll pass. I don't. I don't. I do my research. I listen to what they tell me, and I make an educated decision. And I realize they're the doctor, but sometimes,
We do have to have ownership, right, of our own.
I have to take personal
Yeah.
ownership of it. And but Yeah, you're definitely correct. There's a lot to bringing that price down, but it absolutely can be done with some effort. I don't think insurance companies will be very happy with us, but that's okay. That's not. I'm worried about the citizens of Texas Congressional District 9. That's who I'm there to work for. That's who I'm there to serve. Um, so I can't worry about what other people think.
Are there specific, are there any specific things to your district that are of concern? And that thought just popped into my mind to
Oh,
ask if there's very specific things in your district.
absolutely. One is flood control. Pretty much our district, where we lie here on the Gulf Coast, everybody's floodwater flows through our district eventually to get to Galveston Bay, and we need more of a regional approach. And so I would like to work with our state and local officials and see what we can do from more of a regional perspective to manage our floodwaters and get them in a reasonable fashion into the bay with creating the least amount of um, impact on our residences and our businesses. The Port of Houston is a vital economic engine for not only Harris County in Texas, but the nation. We're the number one port in the nation by tonnage, and if those floodwaters aren't managed, it doesn't take a large water flow to shut the channel down because it becomes unsafe for the ship traffic. So we need to work to make sure we're doing the things we need to do to protect the port, um, continue with making the port deeper and wider where it needs to be. Ships are getting larger and larger, and we need to be able to handle those ships. So the Port of Houston is extremely important. Our petrochemical industry. I grew up right here in the heart of the petrochemical industry, and many of my friends' parents worked there. I still have friends that work there. It's also another major economic engine of this area. Um, so those are specific to Harris County, and then you move over into Liberty County, which is a part of our district. It's more of a agriculture type economy, but they're growing, they're expanding, and they're getting more industrial coming in. But still, ag is a big part of it. I have an ag background. We raise cattle for many years of my life. My dad bought 300 acres up in East Texas when I was in grade school. We raised cattle there into my adult life. I don't remember the exact year we sold it, but and then in business, in my previous business, which was cold storage, I worked with a lot of the rice farmers, cotton farmers, wheat farmers, storing their seed from one planting season to another. So, very familiar with the needs of the agricultural industry as well as the business industry in the district.
Sounds like you need that kind of experience in your district with that kind of diverse. I mean, because that's very different, agriculture and petrochemical, right?
Right.
They're completely different industries, although both of those industries have a wider effect on your region, right? And they have a wider effect on the US. So,
Oh, absolutely.
um, those being able to manage the divergence there, I think would be key to this race.
Yes. You have to have the background in both ends, business and ag, to be able to properly serve this district, I believe.
Do you have any other specific priorities or things that you want to make sure that we touch on?
Well, I think a couple other things that I want to address in Washington is, this idea of you go to Washington with $200,000 in your bank account, you come home a few years later and you've got $20 million in your bank account. How does that happen on $174,000 a year salary? So I think we absolutely have to address that. The idea that members of Congress have an unfair uh, advantage over the rest of us. I don't know too many people of my friends that are getting 25, 30% returns consistently year over year. You have to question how that happens. So uh, we need to address that. We need to stop the insider trading in Washington, and so that's definitely a priority. Another priority of mine is um, we need, the number one job of the Congress is a budget. You got to pass a budget, and they've not been doing a very good job of that. And these shutdowns, I'm sorry, we're hurting a lot of good people. I think when you start telling your members, your service members, and your air traffic controllers, and people of that nature that we depend on every single day for our national security and for our ability to just live our lives, I think the first person who needs to lose their check is each and every member of Congress. And if they would lose their check, then we probably wouldn't have near as many shutdowns. And if we did, they certainly aren't going to last very darn long, because they're not going to want to go without that pay. And the way I look at it, I am a-okay with giving back pay to our service members. I think that's the proper thing to do. Same thing with our other people that work. Members of Congress, no. There's no back pay. You just lose it. It's gone. So you you make your own mind, but there has to be a penalty in business. If my company didn't do well, I'm the one who lost their paycheck, not my employees. They got their
Correct.
paycheck. Business
Correct.
owners get paid last. We get paid out of whatever's left, and I think members of Congress, um, need to pay a penalty for not doing their job, and I think that's fair. It's reasonable, and I think that's something we need to look at.
I hear more people talking about that nowadays than I had heard before. I have heard, I think one of the congressmen said something about, or it might have even been a senator, I'm not sure, said something this last government shutdown about how, um, well, they couldn't live without, they live paycheck to paycheck. And my brain just about exploded. And
Who doesn't?
I thought to myself, I get it. You have to maintain two residences. I'm not gonna, and DC's very expensive. I get it. But the people really affected are the beginning service members who make almost no pay, barely above the poverty level. In most cases,
Yep.
some are right at the poverty level. Um, you know, Entry level government employees, etc. I mean, you think about those people and you say, "Oh, it's only going to be about 6 weeks for us to resolve this." Okay, now I've missed 3 paychecks.
Hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, I get that if I can hold on and not get evicted or whatever, if I could just hold on, you never know how stretched thin they were before they missed that paycheck, right? What if that paycheck is the difference? I just, yeah, I'm with you on this. I
Now,
think
most families, if they had a $400 emergency come up, they do not have the $400 to cover it. So you take away 3 paychecks. I mean, it's just a disaster for those families, and there's no way around it.
it's devastating, and I totally agree. And I've heard a lot of talk of people saying the same things that you are, that is something that is worthy of really taking a hard look at. And as the average American watching this, who doesn't rely on government for my paycheck, but just watching it unfold, it's excruciatingly painful to just sit and watch it, because you know that your neighbors are hurting. I mean,
Yep.
you just know it. It doesn't take rocket science. Like you mentioned earlier, going to the grocery store is expensive nowadays. I mean, prices have come down. I'm not paying $6 for a dozen of eggs anymore, okay? And I'm not paying $6 for a gallon of milk anymore, and I'm thankful for that. But it is still too high to reasonably buy the items you would need to feed your family. And we do have a lot of work to do on that. I agree.
And sometimes it's just getting the government out of the way and letting companies do what they need to do. Um, the government increases anytime they get involved, they're going to increase the cost of whatever it is. And I, myself as a former business owner, and when I talk to other business leaders, and even with our petrochem industry people who I get to visit with because of my position with the college.
Mm-hmm.
They'll we don't mind regulation. We understand there is at a level a need for it. We just want it to be reasonable. We want it to be steady. We can't have it changing every 30 days or even every year. It to comply with a lot of these things, especially in our large industries. You could be talking millions of dollars of an investment, and for them to put that in, and then you change your mind 2 years later, and all that money is just gone to waste. That's not reasonable, and I think that most of our industry people want to be good community citizens. I know that was always important to me as a business owner, that I was a good community citizen as well. And we don't mind them. We just want them to be reasonable and consistent and not be hindering us from doing the things that our customers need us to do, doing the things that our employees will benefit from. Um, and we just working together as opposed to working against one another.
Agreed. I think that oftentimes government just people that are in government may not always have enough of a business background, in my opinion. There's an awful lot of lawyers and yes, there's an awful lot of lawyers in Congress. And truthfully, we need lots of people that have lived experience in the business world, in all industries, in Congress. Personally,
I,
I mean, I've been in the manufacturing industry. My full time job is in the manufacturing industry. I sell manufacturing equipment. And um, to be honest, those are the people, right? The ag people, the petrochem, the manufacturing people. And those are the people that are actually running the nation. And they need a little more actual representation, right? People that have been.
we need people in Washington with practical business experience. We
Absolutely.
I'm running against two attorneys, so and I look.
And
There are
I
times
didn't,
in our
and I,
lives we all need a good attorney. I'm not going to just
yeah.
beat up attorneys, but I think we got enough of them in Washington. Right now, we need people who have good business, practical experience and will look at things from a common sense, practical position versus you know, always looking at it from a legal lens. And because
And just disclaimer here, I have no idea who your opponents are or what they do for a living. I had no idea. I just stepped right into that one.
there
I
you
just,
go.
I'm a businesswoman and I'm practical. And I just think if you get to DC and you don't have some experience with that, then you don't know how the regulations actually affect business owners. You don't know how the regulations actually affect employees. I mean, if you
Right.
don't have that lens to look through, and so that's just another thing for people to consider, right? As they consider
Yeah.
the experience that people have, what do they want their representative to embrace when they head up to DC?
Yeah. And we need a representative who wants to go to Washington to work. My goal is to go up there and work. Um, like I said, I'm used to working 60-hour weeks. I don't have. I'm not going up there to be a career politician. I've had a career. I don't need another one. So I'm not going to be there 20, 30 years from today, from now. Somebody else, hopefully very good, will come up and want to take over at some point. And I decide to come back to Houston for good. And, that's, we don't need people going up there to show off and get on TV and throw hand grenades all the time into the process just so they can get their name on television. Um, I, I don't care if I ever get on television. I just want to go up there and work. I want to be responsible to the citizens of District 9. I will be back in Houston as much as the job will allow. This is my home. Washington, D.C. will never, ever be my home. Uh, this is my home right here in District 9, and this is where I need to be, where I should be as much as possible.
Absolutely. And along those lines, let's segue into the kind of the wrap up here is I want to know, and our audience will want to know, where can the citizens of Texas District 9, where can they go on your social media, websites, whatever, to learn how to volunteer, to learn how to donate, to learn, and do you have a primary date of March 3rd? Is that correct?
March 3rd is the primary date, and in Texas, we have early voting. So early voting starts February the 17th.
Oh, wow. It's coming up soon.
It's coming up
So,
really soon. Yes, ma'am.
yes.
And
So,
you can find more about my campaign.
mhm.
You can go to my website, danmimsfortexas.com. And we also have a Facebook page, Dan Mims for Texas.
Is that FOR or for the number 4?
FOR.
Okay. So DANMIMSFOR Texas,
Yes,
TEXAS.com.
ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. And we also are on X and Instagram.
And same, Dan Mims
Yes.
for Texas?
Dan Mims
Okay.
for Texas. Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's good that they're all the same. Not everybody's are all the same. That makes it easy. They can find you. And I just want to tell you, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to come on and talk about your vision for the district. I think that's really important, and it's been a pleasure. And as always, I'm going to tell everyone in my audience, be blessed and be a blessing. Thank you so
Yes,
much,
ma'am.
Dan.
Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
You've been listening to No Retreat. Guest
Dan Mims.
And as always, everyone, be blessed and be a blessing. Thank you.